Is Gamers Heaven as a business profitable? Yes. Let's talk about it. Just so I can clear this up with everyone, our home store at Gamers Heaven here has been open for 8 years. Last year, a full year post-COVID, we actually made a profit of over $80,000 on top of paying a full staff, management, and loans. And we're already on pace this year, being over 30% above last year. The better question to be asking is the brand company, which is taking care of the marketing, online efforts, media, and most importantly, the expansion franchise efforts, is that profitable? No. I also didn't anticipate for the brand company to be profitable for another 2 to 3 years. People need to understand that the franchising company's income comes from the franchise stores. Now, are the expansion stores profitable? To be honest, that's not a fair question to be asking when our first store in Seattle has only been open for a year and our second store just opened up last month. So I really can't give you a yes or no answer to that yet. But then being our franchise stores, are we not making money off those stores yet? No. Now, I know not everyone has seen our videos regarding those 2 stores, but a quick recap. Our Seattle store originally had a budget around $400,000, which they negotiated down because they already found a building that was fully renovated. They had more than half of that amount guaranteed in their own personal assets, and they were going to finance the other half via the bank, which they already got approval from. But after locking in the building and doing the initial purchases, the bank pulled out right before they opened. Even given that handicap, we still approved them to open because this was the perfect chance to show them not only the proof of concept, but for them to also be able to attract local investors had they done well. And no, we did not collect any franchise fees from last year, even up till most recently, because we wanted to make sure that they reinvested every single dollar that they could back into the store and the community. And if you saw my previous video on their store, they actually hit 90% of my year 1 estimates for their store, which was, by the way, estimated at a loss. Because yes, folks, conservatively, you're supposed to anticipate that it's going to take you a few years to generate a profit for any business. Look it up, it's statistics. But a quick recap for our South Florida store that's been open for a month. It took them a year and a half longer than anticipated to open. On top of that, they had the opposite problem with Seattle, where they actually had all the funds in the beginning that they needed. But then we ran into the unexpected of the construction costs increasing 4, 5, even 10 times higher in certain aspects because of COVID. On top of that, we were dealing with a local city council that was absolutely giving them hell throughout this entire process. They can go further into detail of it, but that led to over a year and a half of delays. But thankfully, they were able to get the additional funding that they needed, and they're finally open. And no, I'm not collecting on their store yet either. Because of the additional funding that they needed, I want them to prioritize paying back those additional loans that we did not calculate for. But in terms of store sales, they're currently around 80% of our sales right now, without having boba and half of their services right now. I'm not gonna lie, low-key, I'm a little bit scared that they're gonna surpass the home store really quickly here. Now, if you actually stayed to this part of the video, let me address some of the concerns that were brought up by this comment in the previous video. Number 1, how do we even get into this debt situation? What was so bad about 2022? So our store, when we went viral on TikTok 2.5 years ago, was still in the middle of COVID lockdowns and still very much in the red because of everything. But with the new influx of franchise inquiries and people interested in the business, we were able to raise enough capital at the time to initially be able to cover the consultation, legal, permitting, and licensing costs. But even before we did that, we had major discussions amongst my family, my team, and investors whether or not we wanted to pursue this opportunity. And at the time, with the initial interest in investments, franchisees, and our momentum, we thought it was an opportunity that we couldn't let go. So we went for it. And thankfully, throughout 2021, we were able to find additional investors, we signed on our target number of franchisees, and we were able to at least get the initial steps that we were told that we need to get ready set, like an office, training center, manual, and initial webinars and marketing opportunities. By the spring of 2021, we were heading in a good direction. We had enough funding to last us to the end of 2021, where we anticipated of the 5 contracts that we signed that we would at least have 2 to 3 stores open, at least by the end of the year, if not Q1 2022. I can go into detail about the statuses of the other stores later on, but just know that we did not anticipate all the banking issues, permitting, zoning, and construction issues that we faced in the first year. But come 2022, that funding dried up. But on top of that, we had all this inventory that was coming from Japan and China that we pre-ordered for the stores that were supposed to be open up by that time. And we were obligated to make these purchases. So in the beginning of 2022, we were able to find some additional financing, some loans, and some new investors. And with that money, we had a hard decision to make at that time. Now in hindsight, which is always 2020, I would have been better off focusing on the online sales, more content creation, and so forth. But at the time, based off the few convention shows that we did in 2021 during COVID restrictions, we did pretty well at those shows. So we had thought with the resources we had available at the time, we could purchase the inventory, go to the trade shows, put on a good show, do some good advertising with the local market and the community, meet local franchisees and investors, and be able to sell a good amount of products so that we can cycle through all the inventory that was coming in throughout the year. And at the time, between my franchisees and my investors and my team members, we thought it was a great idea. Obviously, it did not work out. We lost a significant amount of money and time from the travel, logistics, lodging, food, wages, obviously, the trade show costs. On top of that, the additional costs that were accruing from just the maintenance of the brand company. Everything from accounting and all the retainers that we had to have for lawyers, and most importantly, the additional wages for the franchise company. It was not an easy pill to swallow, but I'm not going to stand here and call the last 2 years a massive failure. And I know some of you will, and you're more than welcome to your opinion. But the thing is, because of the last 2 years and our efforts and our travels, we got to meet and make a lot of relationships with not only content creators, but up and coming and established brands and businesses that are all now looking forward to working with us both digitally as well as physically in our stores. These are opportunities and introductions I would never have gotten had I not gone out there. But most importantly, guys, I will never say that it was a failure being out there, because I got to meet the very community that I'm fighting for. You can call me a grifter, a scam artist, all you want, but I'm never going to stop fighting for the community that I know needs this. But on top of that, guys, I was away from my family and my children for over 4.5 months. It definitely wasn't an easy time. Also, to the commenters about me having to run the store by myself, it's so that during those few months, with the profits we generate, I could take care of some of our debt obligations so we can resume normal business operations after that. Now, am I going to be fully by myself? No. Between my family and my business partners who have been with me for over 7 years at this point, they won't allow me to be by myself. But no matter what, we're going to figure a way through, as we've always done for the last 8 years. So I know that this video has been very long, but if you actually stay to this part of the video, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to what I have to say. And if you're here and you still want to troll, say that I'm just making excuses and blah, 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 please feel free to move on. Also, lastly, to those individuals that stayed here and still think that I should have opened up a land center or another card shop, if you've done your research, you know that those businesses have had terrible histories of lasting. And our business, contrary to belief, has been growing year over year. Even during COVID, we not only were able to pivot, but we actually became even more profitable due to all the increased food services. And lastly, we're not trying to be like those other card shops, those other existing figurine stores and so forth. Those have been in existence servicing a certain community. We're trying to take care of everyone else that's been ignored for the last 2 decades. For those that actually stayed to here, thank you. I appreciate some of you guys understanding that yes, this is a very high stress situation for me right now. None of the decisions that I've had to make or even will be having to make are easy for me. And no, I'm not allowed to just quit and give up here. I have way too many people, from investors to team members, employees, and yes, even members of the community relying on me at this point. So I'm not allowed to take a break. I'm not allowed to stop. I am not allowed to I am not allowed to quit. There is way too much riding on this more than just business. And if you don't understand that, then our business is probably not for you. But if you do, I appreciate your guys' continued support. And no, I'm not quitting. I'm gonna make sure that I take the next few months to make sure that we learn from our mistakes, build the right foundations and the right team so that we can come back even stronger than ever. Until then, no, I'm not gonna stop innovating. I'm never gonna stop changing. Until I achieve the goal of Akihabara, no, I'm gonna keep evolving the store. Call me crazy all you want. I've been doing it for 8 years. Your words aren't gonna stop me.